I'll go ahead and get us started for today's webinar, the Exhibitors Brief. Just be going over some information we have pretty generally about exhibiting at the conference, the bulk of information about the different exhibit spaces and different options this year, as well as differences between this year and last year, including the schedule was covered in the Tour of the Commons, which is live on our YouTube channel. And I'll also drop the link to that video as well at the end of this webinar if some of that information is still outstanding for you. Just to give a quick land acknowledgement like we do in every WAA session, Western Arts Alliance stands in solidarity with Indigenous peoples, and our HQ is based respectfully in the now occupied traditional lands of the Chinook, Multnomah, Kathlamet, Clackamas, Tualatin, Kalapuya, and Molalla tribes. And during this webinar, we're going to go over the decorator, who is called expositions, drayage, shipping, handling, electricity, which is covered by Encore, what's left in the hall, as well as some exhibiting restrictions. All that information is available within the exhibitor's guide and the WAA website right now, as well as within the exhibitor's agreement that was distributed after placement. So if you are still waiting for booth placement, you'll get login information for those things once you're placed. But overall, just going to check in about who's handling what, when, and where. First thing is Cult Expositions, who is our decorator this year. They'll handle a variety of things, including shipping and handling, furnishing, storage, as well as custom printing and any additional AV rentals you may want within the Commons specifically. So if you're an exhibitor who typically likes to have a television or some other type of monitoring or LED wall type presence within the Commons, they'll be able to assist you with renting that equipment on site, but they won't be able to help you with any electricity. You are more than welcome to bring in your own printed materials, but if you'd also like them to handle the production of your printed materials and delivery to the Commons, they'll also be able to help you out with that as well. I'll go over shipping more specifically, as that's kind of the most important item here. We are typically a very hand carry event. People typically don't ship a lot to the conference site. However, we will have outbound shipping available at this year's conference. We've arranged for that to be taken care of by Colt as well this year. But in terms of shipping, we have an advanced warehousing address for you all now. It's on screen. You'll just want to make sure that you include your organization name as well as your booth number and the name of the show or the conference, which is Western Arts Alliance Annual Conference, care of Cult Expositions. And then outbound, you'll use the Oakland Marriott City Center address, making sure that you are including like your exhibiting company name, booth number, as well as Cult Expositions care of. That way, it's making it to the correct warehouse for additional logistics if you want to have them assist you with any shipping. And a point to note about this right now is that you can have any courier deliver to the advanced warehousing address, whether that's being arranged by you specifically, you taking it to the courier service, the freight service, etc., or if it's coming from a retailer or third party as well, you can also have them shipped directly. I will get into kind of how the breakdown of the cost of using multiple shipments will show up, though, if you do decide to do things that way. But otherwise, if you don't have a courier of choice or freight service of choice, there's information within Colt's Expositions portal for ordering additional shipping and handling services as well as furniture that gives some insight of how you can utilize their services or their partner services to pick up your freight or packages and deliver them as well if there's not one that you normally use. Materials handling this year is a standard freight rate of $2 per pound with an $80 minimum, which will cover 40 pounds. And as I was saying, if you are planning on sending additional shipments or sending multiple packages arriving multiple days, is kind of the key point here, is that it's $25 per additional receiving day. So if you were to ship a large shipment of 4 boxes, all contained with one courier, one shipment, and it arrives all on the same day, there wouldn't be any additional charge there because there's no additional receiving day. It's just the one day, as well as the freight rate, you'll want to purchase your drayage, materials handling prior to shipping out, just to make sure that you're kind of covered there as well, and they're prepared to receive your packages. And then cart service is fairly popular among exhibitors. This allows you to bring your materials in from a vehicle if you're renting a vehicle or driving up to the conference and don't necessarily need domestic shipping for any of your materials. It is $85 both directions. So for move in and move out, if you're wanting to utilize cart service, it's going to be a total of $170. And for cart service, essentially, they bring you walk inside without your materials. You arrange with our exhibitor services contact on site, and they will have someone bring a cart to your vehicle. You'll load the cart, and then that person will take your load to your booth directly, where you'll also be able to unload. The only charges that I'm not sharing here in this presentation is going to be any additional material handling or assistance you want in the Commons. You don't have to use this service, but if you do need additional labor for setting up, that isn't someone that's coming to the conference under your organizational banner. Cold Expositions is the sole provider for that, so you can't hire like an outside TaskRabbit or additional person or service to help set up your booth if they're not exhibiting at the conference alongside you. And they have their rates for that, whether it's packing up your show at the end or unloading, available within their portal as well. And then to shipping dates. So you will be able to ship to the advanced warehouse starting Monday, August 3rd through Thursday, September 3rd, but you will incur additional surcharges for late shipments if you ship things out that arrive after September 3rd. This timeline is just so they're able to load the truck appropriately. That brings all of the freight that we're anticipating to set up the show, and it happening later than that disrupts the logistics, so they have to charge an additional surcharge to be able to accommodate that. And again, just covering the information, you want to make sure your shipping packages have to the advanced warehouse, which is, again, your organization name, your booth number. So after your exhibit has been placed within the Commons, and as well as our show name, the conference, Western Arts Alliance 2026 Annual Conference, you should be okay to admit 2026, but you want to make sure you write Western Arts Alliance Annual Conference and your organization name. Otherwise, it may not show up to the correct show, or it may not show up to your booth specifically on site. And in addition to that, if you do have crates coming of larger materials, they will cover storage costs for your extra crates or materials during the duration of the show and bring them to you for closeout, as well as we strike the exhibit hall on Friday morning. But if you are not using their shipping services and you need additional storage for crates, etc., they do offer that as a service as well. But that's also arranged directly with the decorator within their portal, as well as furnishings. They will also be the dedicated vendor for any additional seating or table materials you may want to bring in, furniture, so that you will not be able to use a third-party rental service. Say if there was like a local furniture rental company within Oakland you typically use because you're based there, that's not allowed. You will have to go directly through Cult Expositions for these materials. We have worked out with them that you will be allowed furniture swaps. So say that the chairs that come with the exhibit space or the tables that come with your meeting space, as long as they fit within the confines of your footprint, you can trade the smaller cafe table and smaller chairs within that space for a bistro tabletop or the bistro seating. This is an exhibit type we usually provided as an option within the Commons, but this year, instead of having it be its own standalone option, if you have a cafe space, you'll be invited to just set up the furniture that you most desire. So we're able to streamline the spaces based on the sizes as opposed to the furniture within them, as well as 8x10s if you're interested in additional tables, whether they have custom printing skirts around them or just the standard skirting. You'll be able to either swap for a larger table, smaller table, additional tables directly with them as well. And then for furnishing deadlines, these are earlier. Then I don't think they're earlier than usual. These are pretty on par for what we usually have. But Friday, August 14th will be the discounted final order date. So by getting your order in early, you do have a discount on every single thing that you purchase, including graphic file production, printed material production, as well as furniture rentals. And then the regular deadline for graphic file submission, which though if you're printing anything directly with them is Friday, August 28th. Um, but anything after Friday, August 28th on the furnishing side will be at the regular rate. And then between Friday, August 28th to Wednesday, September 2nd, the week right before the conference, that is going to be the final order date for furnishing and then the graphic file submission rush order dates as well. And all this information is available on the WAA website as well as within the Cult Expositions portal as well. So this isn't the only place this lives. And if you have any questions about those deadlines, please let me know. But the earlier that you get your orders in, the cheaper it's going to be. So we do recommend getting that taken care of as soon as you do know what your presence at the conference is going to be. And this year, our electrical rates for all 3 days are split between amperages like they usually are. And again, since we are using a Marriott property similar to last year, we are using the in-house AV team at the Oakland Marriott City Center or the Oakland Convention Center. That nomenclature is the same for Encore. They are the sole vendor for electrical services. So if you need an electrical drop, 5 amps, 10 amps, 20 amps, they'll be the people that you will work with. And to give some insight on what the different amperages are, if you're unfamiliar with them, is that 5 amps is good for maybe a laptop and a couple of phones if you plan on having a very light presence and needing electricity for it. 10 amps if you have multiple computers, that's about 1,000 watts all running at once, as well as maybe like a monitor or a printer. You'll be kind of covered there with that. But if you plan on having like a larger presence, multiple monitors, multiple computers, you want to look at the 20 amp option. And unfortunately, you can't pay for power drops daily. You'll have to pay for the full 3 days of the show, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, if you're interested in having power in your booth. And we don't get to set these rates. We don't really have much negotiating power over the rates since we can't bring any outside electrical services into the property. And this is the same for our own rentals and electricity. We have to use Encore for our electrical rates, even if we aren't using them directly for AV equipment. They also have opportunities to get dedicated Wi-Fi. If you're interested in that, we will have Wi-Fi service within the Commons and throughout the hotel covered by the conference. So there's not much of a necessity to have that dedicated line for your booth unless that is something that is critical to your operations. And then to kind of close out with kind of the restrictions that are in place for exhibiting this year. This is information that's covered within the exhibitor's agreement and are kind of outlined in the WAA Code of Ethics as well. And I'll just cover these kind of big points that are kind of in the weeds a little bit at the beginning, but then also some very specific restrictions that WAA has that other shows may not have. So in general, exhibitor materials must remain within the footprint of your booth, whether it's a 10x8 or a cafe space. This includes the walls of the property, so you can't put up signs throughout the property. We ask that you don't leave any postcards or any other paper marketing materials throughout the conference site. This is part of WAA's rules in regards to keeping the space tidy as well as respecting the space that we are occupying. So please leave all of your marketing, advertising materials within the booth. But you are more than welcome to deliver those things directly to people. If you're striking up a conversation, trying to provide more information one-on-one to someone, that's a good opportunity to use any cards or et cetera that you're bringing to the site. And if you are scattering materials throughout the conference site, cleaners throughout the hotel or other staff at the hotel are liable to pick them up. They may not bring them to the registration table, but if you had a large stack of materials you left out and you're interested in seeing if they exist, check with us at the registration desk to see if they made it there, if they didn't make it to the trash, because we do know those materials are expensive. which is why we want to give you a heads up about this, that you don't want those materials just thrown away. In addition to that, if you do have audio visual components within the Commons and you use monitoring to show video or anything, you must have headphones with those. That's to keep a quiet environment for everyone meeting within the Commons and making sure that you're not only respecting the physical space, but the volume, auditory space of the exhibitors around you. And materials cannot obstruct the aisles or other exhibitors. This includes lines of sight. So if you have three exhibitors next to each other, you have to make sure your signage inside of your booth doesn't block the visibility of someone being able to see that other booths are within the line. And within the exhibitors agreement, there's a diagram of some placements within the cafe spaces that are most optimal to be able to satisfy that requirement and also still have visibility for your materials as well if you have a pop-up banner. And additionally, for pop-up banners, signage must be 8 feet maximum in height. It can't go higher than that within the Commons, within the footprint of either the cafe space or the 8x10 booth, and that's bounded by the pipe and drape for the 10x8 spaces. But more specifically to WAA, within the Commons and within the rest of the conference property in general, there's no balloons allowed, strobes, spotlights, or projections, as well as artists cannot be in costume or performing outside of designated showcasing locations. Of course, an artist or a performer yourself can be in costume if you're walking from the green room to your showcase, but walking around the property in costume, walking throughout the Commons in costume, is not something that we allow as part of the WAA conference. This is just so we're creating, not to say that being in costume is unprofessional, but just focusing on business as well as professionalism within the different spaces to make sure there isn't too many distractions drawing people away within the WAA Commons. And then a final note, just covering inventory. We do have 10x8 as well as cafe spaces available in the Commons. We are anticipating concluding sales of the Commons at the end of early bird registration on Friday, July 17th. Depending on where we stand, we may extend it to the end of July, but we are anticipating not having any more booth sales regardless of where we stand at the end of July. And placement will occur about twice a month on a rolling basis until we do close sales finally. And we will still take in consideration exhibitor loyalty as opposed to simply just first come, first serve. So if you have a 15 plus organization that's been attending WAA very often, and there's multiple organizations that haven't been attending as long or in the 0 to 14 or the 1 to 14 or are a brand new exhibitor, you would still get priority placement in your booth of choice over those folks if you all did preference the same booth within your registration form. And that's kind of the long and short of the information I have to cover with you all today. So I'll open it up for any questions you may have, if you have any thoughts, or if there's anything that I left out that you're really interested in. I'm happy to hang out and answer any questions. And you can use the chat for that. I hope that is on. And if it is, and it is now. Can you explain how various receptions inside the Commons will impact booths? Yes, that is a great question. We will have a hospitality set up along some of the wings within the booths, or not within the booths, within the hall. So if you look at the floor plan, you'll see there's two concourses. When you enter the Commons, there's the large concourse through the center from the door and then a lane through the middle. We'll have the receptions have the hospitality set along the walls there and throughout. That way people are not obstructing the other lanes of traffic, and the hospitality will be first come, first serve, as well as at this time, there's not plans to have any amplified sound or anything else going on. So it is just an additional ability for people to kind of congregate in those big concourses. For example, although the floor plan is scaleless, though those lanes are very wide, they're 30 to 40 feet, I believe, in those. So you shouldn't have any issues with people being able to navigate to a booth, and you shouldn't have anyone really congregating directly in front of your booth. There should be a good amount of distance, at least 10 feet from wherever there's any furniture. But you will be centrally located facing that hospitality and nearest to it and have a lot of visibility, which is why we considered those booths along those concourses as premium. And we'll have coffee service in the morning, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We'll have a tea time break Wednesday and Thursday, as well as a happy hour in the final hour of the Commons on Wednesday and Thursday as well. We may have an additional morning reception at about 10 a.m., but we haven't fully confirmed that yet. The question is, how early can we get into the exhibit hall each day? This year, the Commons will be open from 9 a.m. specifically to 6 p.m. or 6:30 p.m., I believe. And we're having people have access to the Commons as early as 8 a.m., 8:30 a.m. In those kind of open hours, we are going to call those quiet hours. So if you have any meetings booked in that time period, we definitely invite you to have them. But generally, I just want to keep things kind of um, just quieter in general, as people are starting to get their days together. Just have a more inviting atmosphere if people are browsing, etc. So just kind of an early start. And as well as during our lunch break, which is going to be from 12:30 to 1:30 p.m., we will stop having entry into the Commons starting at noon. But if you're already within the Commons, we're not going to be forcing people out of the space. So if you do have meetings within that hour, just know that you'll want to let those folks know that if they leave the Commons, they won't be able to get back in. And we will reopen the Commons to exhibitors 30 minutes prior to the full reopening at 1:30 p.m. So if you are an exhibitor, you'll be able to get back to your booth at 1 p.m. To prepare for any meetings that you have for the afternoon. This year, we're trying to keep the Commons open as much as possible, as we know that that's the one thing that we can continue to build more time into is that just having availability as opposed to closing it and having restrictions around it. We have a fairly small conference site this year as well. There isn't a lot of like lobby space or space in like a hotel cafe like we had at the JW Marriott. So we wanted to keep the Commons as open as possible, especially with those additional meeting concourses. So folks have a place to congregate that's within the Commons as opposed to needing to go off-site or needing to like find another option for those meetings that don't completely align with the open hours of the Commons. Is there breakfast in the Commons? I know we will definitely have coffee service in the Commons. I'm not certain that we will have any food or breakfast within the Commons. There may be something light. There might be fruit or bagels. In some in previous conferences, we've had that as part of the hospitality prior to the Commons opening. But I don't think it's not a definite no. I'm just not certain on like the level of food. I wouldn't say it's going to be like a full continental like eggs and bacon style breakfast, but I'm sure there's going to be some like snack type things within it. All right. Well, that concludes today's webinar. You can contact me at mgresham@westarts.org or membership@westarts.org if you have any questions. This session will also be available for playback in a short while as well, if you want to review the material in here, as well as the presentation. Additionally, the warehouse address, links to work with the decorator, as well as Encore for electricity services is live on the WAA website at westarts.org/the-comments. So all of that lives there. If you have any trouble tracking anything down, or if you do have your space already set and you've gotten placement, but you haven't heard from the decorator, let me know and I'll be able to get them directly in touch with you as well. But thank you again for being here and joining me for today's webinar. I hope you all have a good rest of your day. Take care.